Fam, what's good? It's your boy Thou FamOverTV. I appreciate everybody tapping into the channel, showing love, liking, sharing, commenting, subscribing, all that good stuff. These videos are for entertainment purposes only. I appreciate everybody that's on this journey with me, of learning and intaking all this new information and just, tapping in and learning with me. Today we got another good video. It's our US history of mystery. Yeah, it's a lot of conspiracies and a lot of truth, man. So let's check these out. Make sure y'all like that video, hit that like button, and comment below. My bad. Let's get it.
Fam over.
Terrifying list of weird and unexplained things happening all over the US this past week.
People were sleeping at 4 a.m. The first powerful 7.8 magnitude quake rocked southeastern Turkey and northern Syria.
Twelve sinkholes have opened up in Turkey.
Damn.
It has happened again for the third day in a row and the fourth time in just 9 days. The United States has shot down an unidentified high-flying object.
Footage of the UFO shot down over Alaska.
An unidentified cylindrical object caused a fighter jet to malfunction as they came closer to shooting it down.
Black one.
Alien sighting in Australia.
Holy crap.
Yeah,
what
right.
do you want?
That's cap.
In Chile, it's reported amongst one of the deepest sinkholes discovered worldwide at 656 feet deep. Now, just a few months ago, there was also a sinkhole in China. This sinkhole was 630 feet deep, had a well-preserved primitive forest with trees that grew up to 130 feet tall. The leader of this expedition stated that he wouldn't be surprised to know that there are species found in these caves that haven't been discovered by scientists. Now, I'm kind of glad that things like this and UFO sightings are starting to come to surface more, because it's solidifying one of my favorite theories. Every day, scientists are discovering things that justify that there might be another world within our world. Back in 2014, scientists discovered a reservoir of water that's over 400 miles beneath the Earth's surface, all thanks to a mineral called ringwoodite. This was discovered because of a volcanic eruption in Brazil. This water-bearing mineral is only found deep within the Earth, and it proved that there's a lot more water to be found. That within Earth's mantle lies enough water to fill each ocean on the surface 3 times over. Genesis 7:11 mentions how the fountains of the great deep broke loose during the Great Flood. The Book of Enoch mentions how the flood was a punishment for the giants who were left inside of the earth. Isn't it interesting that all ancient cultures reference a great flood, as well as giants? Admiral Byrd mentions how he was exploring Antarctica and how he stumbled across a tropical land that led him inside of the earth. So is there another world beneath our feet? Or is there another world beyond the ice wall?
Man, listen, what's going on with these sinkholes, y'all? Like, is the earth hollow? Because these sinkholes pop up everywhere. Like, I know we had a few sinkholes in Flint, Michigan. Like, couldn't explain it. Like, how do they just pop up like that and just something's going on? It's interesting.
Past couple of weeks, and we've been doing a lot of investigating. Now here's the whole recap of the whole. This is when the city came out and used their cable and camera. At this point, he was only able to get 23 feet below the hole. That was halfway. At this point, they kept stacking pipe, and ultimately the hole was, or at least we think, was 45 feet deep. So time comes around to fixing it. and discovering all of the wonders that's below and around the hole. Turns out there was a whole fucking dryer in there, along with a tractor wheel. Not the only thing. Get this. When you get 10 feet below the sinkhole, there is a ledge, or like a hill, and we discovered that my house is on top of a cave system.
Wow.
And this, what I'm about to show you, is a 15 by 15 foot cave. And this person is fully standing up. This isn't even the 15 by 15 foot room, but this is just the passageway to get to that. And get this. This is underneath my driveway.
That's wild.
Just standing up. Has anyone seen The
You
Descent?
had somebody living up under your crib. Wow.
All hands hoist the colors high. Heave ho, thieves and beggars never shy.
Sinkholes in the water, in the ocean too. Man, I don't know about that. That's got to be frightening. Just a sinkhole pop up and your car accidentally fall in it or anything. And man, that's frightening. That's crazy. Y'all let me know what you think. Comment below. Make sure you like the video.
Experiment was real. In the middle of World War II, an American battleship put a technology designed by Einstein himself to the test and managed to become invisible and teleport. This is how the Philadelphia experiment was born. This is, at least, what some conspiracy theorists say. Here is the true story of the USS Eldridge, the ship that traveled back in time. What is popularly known as the Philadelphia experiment, or Philadelphia experiment, alludes to a supposed dark program of the U.S. Navy called Project Rainbow. Legend has it that the military were testing an electromagnetic field generator with which they were trying to find practical applications to the unified field theory proposed by Albert Einstein. In one sentence, they wanted to achieve invisibility. Private technicians who would not know what they were installing would equip two powerful generators, dozens of meters of electrical cable around the hull and other complex electronic devices to the USS Eldridge, a 93-meter-long battleship. On July 22, 1943, the first supposed experiment would take place. The generators activated an electromagnetic field that made the battleship disappear from view for a few minutes surrounded by a greenish mist. Some sailors complained of severe nausea caused by the test. The equipment was readjusted and the second test took place on October 28. This time, the entire ship completely disappeared and appeared at the Navy base in Norfolk, 600 kilometers away and 15 minutes in the past. He was sighted there during that time. After that he disappeared again in the middle of a blue lightning to return to Philadelphia. Official statements from the Navy. As they say, the consequences of this second experiment were so devastating for the crew that the Navy decided to cancel the project. Most of the sailors developed schizophrenia and some completely lost their minds. Many were seriously injured when they materialized, and others, less fortunate, fused horribly with the ship's hull. Some faded days after the experiment and never reappeared. This is, broadly speaking, the gruesome story perpetuated by theorists, ufologists, and some science fiction movies. The Navy has always denied the existence of the Philadelphia experiment. In a statement released in November 2000, the Navy Office of Naval Research, ONR, completely denied the existence of any invisibility or teleportation programs, as well as Einstein's involvement. But between 1943 and 1944, Einstein worked as a part-time consultant for the Navy on theoretical research on explosives and blasting. Of course, there is no evidence that Einstein has worked on anything related to invisibility or teleportation. How did the Philadelphia experiment come to light then? The answer is through a series of letters sent by Carl Meredith Allen under the pseudonym Carlos Miguel Allende. Allegedly, Allen was a merchant marine who saw the USS Eldridge disappear from his own ship, the SS Andrew Forsyth. Allen described the alleged teleportation experiment in a correspondence with the writer and ufologist Morris Jessup. Although the Marine never provided any credible proof of what he said, Jessup was fascinated by the story and included it in a book called The Case for the UFO.
Man, ain't that crazy? If they can, if it's true, you know what I'm saying? If it's true, it's just conspiracies. But they say, I mean, I don't know. I done heard about this story. Just imagine that though. They made a battleship disappear, then reappear. If they was doing that type of stuff way back then, and that was what, 1940 something, 42, whatever they said, like back then. Come on now. Imagine what they doing now. And they said they shut it down and stopped the program, but I doubt that. They probably still doing their thing on the low.
For over 50 years, it revolves around the US Eldridge, a US Navy destroyer that supposedly vanished during an experiment in 1943. The story began with astronomer Morris Jessup, who received a letter from Carlos Miguel Allende, a former sailor. Allende claimed that the ship became invisible and
it's a wild story right here.
Surrounded by a green fog. Allegedly, crew members died or suffered severe injuries during the experiments. The government allegedly discontinued the project after the tragic events. The US Eldridge was later transferred to the Greek Navy and decommissioned in 1992.
I wonder what the families of those, like the few people that they said disappeared and never reappeared, I wonder what their family was saying. Like, what the fuck? Like, what's going on? Like, need some interviews of some of these
Creating
people.
a car that ran on water. Stanley Allen Mayer was an inventor who claimed that he created a water fuel cell for cars. In theory, that means it would eliminate the need for gas, giving the world a cleaner source of energy. Imagine only using water for your car. Now this is where it gets wild because he actually demonstrated this on an Ohio television news station using a dune buggy fitting his invention, stating that with 22 gallons of water, it could take you from Los Angeles to New York.
Top our news here at 6 o'clock. An age-old dream becoming a reality. A local inventor has discovered a way to use water to run your car.
Now this is where it gets scary because in 1998, he had a dinner meeting with Belgium investors. His brother was also there with him. Everything seems to be going good, except for when Stanley starts gasping for air. He gets up, he holds himself, runs out of the restaurant yelling, "They've poisoned me, they've poisoned me," before sadly collapsing to the ground and not making it. A week later, his car's fuel cell was stolen out of his garage, and his demise was ruled as a brain aneurysm. But what do you guys think really happened to Stanley?
Now, y'all know what happened to Stanley, man. Stanley came up with that invention, how to make cars run off water. They got scared. They like, hey, we can't let this get out. We got to silence him. We got to destroy this because it'll mess up our whole everything, automobile industry. Everything. They wouldn't be able to sell no cars no more. It'll just shift everything. It'll mess everything up. So y'all know what they had to do, man. I hate to hear that, man. Rest up, Stanley. Damn. They need to just imagine though the world would be a cleaner place, air would be cleaner. It'd be better if we running our cars off water. But they don't want that. They don't want that.
History. Look at these old pictures. George Sr. getting kissed by his dad. Nope, that's his wife. His wife, Barbara Bush. She was so beautiful. Let's look at some pictures of her. I mean, what a beautiful picture, right? I bet George and Jeb didn't want to be late for dinner with this lady. She didn't play any shit. She'd give you one of these. This is back when the shoulder pads was in, right? Kind of gives
Barbara
you that
Bush?
Brian Urlacher vibe, but very sweet lady, I hear. Yep. She was surely one of a kind. With that being said, happy Pride Month, or summer, and have a good day.
She might just have like manly features or something, man. That's all. It just might just be
Wall Street. It's where one of the nation's worst episodes of racial violence took place. In 1921, a neighborhood in Tulsa, Oklahoma called the Greenwood District was a bustling community of Black-owned businesses. Tulsa locals know that period of Greenwood's history as a kind of golden age.
If you can imagine just a like an old-time downtown, things like movie theaters, pharmacies, hair salons,
in
so forth.
They called it Black Wall Street.
It was a mecca. It was a huge success.
But Black Wall Street was also an anomaly. It thrived at a time when the KKK was incredibly active in Oklahoma, and the nation had just been through the Red Summer of 1919, when white mobs murdered black people in dozens of incidents.
A sort of match or an igniter tossed on these embers. And that trigger event was an incident that involved two teenagers, Dick Rowland, 19-year-old black boy who shined shoes downtown, Sarah Page, 17-year-old white girl who ran an elevator in a downtown building called the Drexel Building. He went to the building, boarded the elevator, something happened, Sarah Page began to scream. They both ran out of the elevator.
Now, we don't know exactly what happened in this elevator, but a day later, Rowland was arrested and taken to the courthouse. The local newspaper ran an article claiming Rowland had assaulted Page. Even though Page refused to press charges, the article was essentially a call to action for whites.
A large white mob began to gather on the lawn of the courthouse. Dick Rowland was in jail on the top floor. A number of black men, several dozen, marched down to the courthouse to protect him, some of them armed. There was a struggle between one of the black men in the small group and one of the white men in the larger group, and things sort of went south from that point.
Hundreds of white people descended upon Black Wall Street, armed. Black residents withdrew behind the railroad tracks that marked off the Greenwood district. Some of them were armed and fought back, but they were outnumbered by the white mob, which shot their way through. The white mob murdered, they looted, and they set fire to Black Wall Street.
Man, that's sad, man.
This was the strategy, if you will, of how to deal with these communities, with these successful black communities. The effects were disastrous.
For 2 days, the Greenwood district burned. Martial law was declared, and the National Guard was brought in. By the time the massacre ended, Greenwood was in ruin. They set fire to Black Wall Street.
That's fucked up, man.
This was the strategy, if you will, of how to deal with these communities, with these successful black communities. The effects were disastrous.
For 2 days, the Greenwood district burned. Martial law was declared, and the National Guard was brought in. By the time the massacre ended, Greenwood was in ruins. More than 1,200 homes were destroyed, and 35 blocks burned. The exact number of casualties is harder to pin down. Some initially only reported that white people died. Others reported somewhere between 30 and 100 mostly black casualties. But estimates now put that number...
We've been getting done wrong for a long time, man. Like, I heard about this story, but like seeing this and everything, that's devastating. It's crazy, man. So they burnt down the whole city because of that incident they claimed happened on the elevator. Man, I'm glad we passed these type of moments, even though things are still happening to reflect these type of things. But man, it's just sad, man. Y'all make sure y'all like that button, man. You know what I'm saying? I hate playing this sad stuff, but hey, we got to watch this stuff. It's good to just know, man. It's good for us.
Closer to 300. As for those that survived, thousands of them lived in tent cities in the months that followed, and were left to reported that white people died. Others reported somewhere between 30 and 100 mostly black casualties, but estimates now put that number closer to 300. As for those that survived, thousands of them lived in tent cities in the months that followed, and were left to pick up the pieces of rubble they once called home. After the massacre, the cover-up started. Records went missing from city files, including the very article that started it all.
Wow.
It makes photos from this time all the more important as part of the historical record. But back in 1921, these images served a very different purpose.
So photo postcards like these were pretty widely distributed after the massacre. At the time, they were part of white supremacist culture and kept as souvenirs of racially charged crimes.
Now they're preserved to make sure this part of Tulsa's history isn't forgotten. On the postcards, it's called the Tulsa Race Riot. a name that itself sort of erases what really happened.
By calling it a riot, it's a way of trying to rewrite the history, assuming that there were both sides at
massacre,
fault, and that was not the case. I call it a massacre, and I call it that because that's what it was.
Greenwood eventually rebuilt, but nearly a century later, there's a part of this story that still haunts the city. No one actually knows where the victims' bodies are.
We got to find our people. We got to put them at rest. You know, if not, we'll continue to be haunted by what was done so many years ago.
Kevin Ross, a local writer, is one of many in Tulsa descended from people who lost everything in the massacre.
So in this cemetery, there are only 2 official victims of the Tulsa Race Massacre.
Right.
How many victims do you think there are?
After all these years, I think 300 is putting it mild.
In 1997, the city finally put together a commission to study the massacre and help piece together what happened in 1921. They compiled records and eyewitness accounts.
The bullets were just raining down over us.
They set our house on fire and went right straight to the curtains and set the curtains on fire.
Wow.
These accounts are especially important now because none of these survivors are alive anymore. And they also provided new information. Some mentioned trucks, like this one, loaded with victims of the riot. One riot witness in particular came forth testifying that he saw bodies being dumped in Oaklawn Cemetery.
This is it. This is the area.
Using the survivor kitchens with anomalies in the soil. Only one step was left, to excavate. But it was something the city at the time wasn't up for doing. For many Tulsans, it was a part of history best forgotten and not worth investigating. In some ways, today, that sentiment remains.
Kind of waste of money.
Why do you think that?
It's over, it's done.
But there are clear signs of a city that's ready to come to terms with a dark chapter in its history.
Honestly, that's a lot of missing people that probably had families.
We owe it to the people whose blood has actually fertilized the grounds of this place.
I think a pretty basic compact that a city makes with its citizens is, if somebody murders you, we will do everything we can to find out what happened to you and give your family closure. And whether you were murdered yesterday or you were murdered 98 years ago.
Man, just imagine like all the other cities that this happened in, like this same type of event happened in, that didn't get the press coverage or didn't get the notice or notoriety that this got. It's probably all type of different other black little communities that was thriving that they came and shut down, man, that we don't know. But that's so sad, man. I hate to hear that. Sad. They ain't even found all the bodies and none of that. And that was in 1921, man. It's crazy, man. Our history crazy.
Know about voodoo. I deeply know about it. In Louisiana, we don't play about that shit. Like, that's one topic, one thing we don't fucking play about. People are so sleep on the fact that people really play with voodoo. You probably really have somebody putting voodoo on your life and you don't even know because you sleep on the fact that that shit is real, but it's really fucking real, and it's really people out here that is so fucking miserable that they sitting around doing that shit to people.
Is there any way to know if you are under a voodoo spell?
You really have to go to a voodoo lady, and even if that's something you don't believe in, that's something everybody should do. I don't care if you don't believe in that shit. You might don't believe in it, but it's people out here that don't fucking like you that believe in it, that's putting that shit on you, and you going through hell in life, and you wondering where the fuck is all this hell coming from?
Damn. Man, yeah, right. I don't know about that one right there, man.
Seems to show another human with super abilities. It was uploaded to YouTube by Lebergang Ron Mashigo. The video shows what appears to be some sort of ceremony. There's music and singing, and a crowd is gathered to watch the man at the center of the ceremony. Doesn't take long to see why. The man appears to be hovering several feet above the ground. At first, he's lying in a supine position as if he's been lifted off the ground while lying flat. Then he begins to spin around, appearing to stand upright in the air, and then flipping on his head. The ceremony takes place outside in the middle of the day. The sun is shining brightly, and the bright light doesn't illuminate any hidden strings that could be helping to levitate the man. Also, there doesn't appear to be any trees or structures nearby that he could be suspended from, making it difficult to imagine how this amazing feat could be faked. There are some belief systems that claim that people can achieve amazing things that go beyond ordinary human ability by using practices such as meditation. So could this man have achieved this amazing power of levitation in a similar way? Watch the video again and decide for yourself.
Man, I definitely don't know about no voodoo, but that right there, I don't know how to explain that. I don't know how to explain that man levitating like that. Y'all believe in that voodoo stuff? I definitely believe like people can put some type of spells or worship some things on you, like and cause you to have some type of, you know, mishaps in your life. Because if they put in a whole bunch of energy towards it and they just focusing on that, the law of attraction would make things happen. You feel me? But I don't know about voodoo. Y'all help me out. Comment below. Let me know what you think, man. Let's get it.
Drugs involved?
No. Once and I was riding in Toronto, and we saw like a laser, midday, right, middle of the day, nice, right? Laser in daylight. That's a weird look. That's a thing, right?
Yes.
We saw it, hit the ground about a couple of blocks in front of us. We got there, didn't see. I said, what was that? He said, I don't know. So we drove another 3 minutes. The same thing came down through. Now we're off the highway. We're on a secondary street. Come right down through the trees, 2 blocks in front of us. We see it right out the sky and right through the trees. And when it hit the ground, it looked like electricity splattering, it's popping. Okay, we see that. It landed on the same side of the street we were on. Next one landed in the same block now, on the other side of the street. And I reached for the radio, you know, to turn down and look. And then the third one hit the car on the passenger side. It beat it up like, you know, like mercury in a thermometer. You know, with the mercury in the thermometer.
I do not know about mercury in a thermometer.
Liquefied
and
like liquefied
silver, like liquid looking.
And just dribble over the side of the car.
Yes.
Now, this is only like 3 minutes from where we just seen the laser. I mean, the one that looked like a laser.
Right.
This is like 3 minutes.
I love this story, right?
But when we hit the car, our attention for like years, I didn't think about this for years, was on the fact that the street lights were going down.
They were dimming.
They were dimming. Right. You know, it was like the street lights was on and they were going off. The car lights was doing that, was dimming. You could see way down 2 blocks in front of you, the lights going out and Boots is driving. Say, what is it? I said, I don't know, get the fuck out of here.
That's a normal
We get
reaction.
about 3 blocks in this, and look to the left, you can see street lights on and it looked like traffic was moving. We get to the house, parked in the driveway, and don't say shit. We sat there for like 3 minutes. And my daughter walks out and said, wow, y'all look like y'all seen a ghost. And she said, you know, give me a hug, I'm going to bed. Now remember, I told you the weirdest thing about seeing it the first time, that was in daylight.
Right.
This was only like 5 minutes away from where that.
Now it's dark?
Now it's dark, and she's going to bed.
So time lapse.
So that means it's 7 o'clock. We did not think about that for at least 10 years.
You guys got abducted.
We did not think about the fact that that time discrepancy from the first time we saw it to the street lights going out to her going to bed. I had to call Boots. I'm on the road years later and say, when I thought about it like that, I said, what time did we get to Toronto? He said, 10 or so in the morning. I said, right. When we saw the light the first time, I said, it was daylight.
Scared of Toronto.
I said, it was daylight, right? He said, yeah, it was daylight. It was weird. That's what made it weird. That it was in daylight. There's only 3 blocks from there to where the light hit the car. I said, why was the street lights going out?
And why were they even on?
And why was Barbarella going to bed at 7 at night? He said, man, fuck you. He said, what happened to that time?
I got
We
abducted.
never thought about that.
Which is classic abduction story.
Yeah.
And I gotta ask, was there any drugs involved?
No.
Mushrooms, no psychedelic, no funkadelic.
Right, y'all wasn't high,
We
was
just come
y'all?
from Detroit, from the studio, had to come through customs.
Because you know Detroit and Canada
They're
right
going to
there.
Canada.
Yeah,
They're going through customs, which, you know.
Windsor went up 4 months. So we had to come through custom. We ain't coming through the custom with no drugs.
Yeah, yeah.
Matter of fact, I had to go look for some after that.
Right.
That shit fucked you up so much.
Right.
Oh, that, and that was, oh yeah, that, I believed in that. Anyway, I'm a Star Trek freak.
Ooh.
So all of that, I believe in.
Do y'all think people can get abducted and not know it, and they've been abducted before, and you know what I'm saying? Do you think that's possible? Excuse me. Comment below. Let me know what you think. Make sure y'all like the video.
Exactly what people think, and this is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
There's no question about the fact that Mockingbird is real. It started out paying journalists in major media, Pulitzer Prize-winning journalists, to print fake stories that the CIA wanted in the press and fake interviews. And this was revealed in the Church Committee.
Do you have any people being paid by
We know this been going on. Still going on.
contributing to a major circulation American journal?
We do have people who submit pieces to American journals.
And of course, then the CIA destroyed the rest of the files, which is what they do. George H.W. Bush came out and finally made the statement about Mockingbird. Well, we're going to officially stop the Mockingbird program. The CIA will no longer pay journalists to write stories. From now on, the program is voluntary, which means Mockingbird continues today.
Yeah,
When's
right.
the last time you've seen a mainstream media outlet do a serious investigative report on the actions of the CIA? Today?
Yeah, right. Y'all know they still using it. He said it's still optional, and it's still an option today and everything, but they trying to act like they stopped it way back. Man, they've been doing this for so long, man. And the news propaganda, like, come on now. They've been feeding stories to the news since the news was created.
Well, I would think probably for a reporter it would continue today, but because of all of the revelations of the period of the 1970s, it seems to me that a reporter's got to be much more circumspect in doing it now, or he runs the risk of at least being looked at with considerable disfavor by the public. I think you've got to be much more careful about it.
Platforms to push their own personal bias and agenda to control exactly what people think, and this is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
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 This is extremely dangerous to our
They all saying the same thing.
This is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
This is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
This is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
That's weird.
Have you ever seen that video where it shows local news people? It's local news people all saying like the exact same thing. It's really weird.
No.
It's one of those things where you go like, I kind of knew that this happened, but to see it happen so blatantly.
Without checking facts first.
The sharing of biased and
False news has become all too common on social media.
More alarming, some media outlets simply aren't true without checking facts first. Unfortunately, some members of the media use their platforms to push their own personal bias and agenda to control exactly what people think, and this is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
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 Yeah, this is the scariest. Well, that's propaganda. I mean, this is they're trying to bend a narrative in a very specific way for everybody.
They send the script out. Y'all know what time it is.
The Simpsons once again prophesied some crazy things. The Simpsons have made some alarming predictions about the year 2024. In a 1998 episode called Bart to the Future, the show hinted at an economic crisis, nuclear war, and the death of the US president all occurring in the same year. The episode shows Lisa Simpson as the future president. In a scene with her advisors, Lisa mentions the budget problems and mess left by the previous administration led by President Biden. A news report in the episode then describes a nuclear conflict with an unspecified country, resulting in massive destruction. The idea of nuclear war and economic turmoil is understandably frightening. However, one can hope these predictions do not come true. Still, The Simpsons have predicted major real-world events accurately in the past. This leads to wondering what else they may have foreseen. In fact, a more recent Simpsons episode contains an even more terrifying prediction than anything before. Do you want to find out about this new prediction in part 2?
The man in the house rule was written to prevent welfare cheating, to make sure that aid to families with dependent children would go only to families headed by mothers. But the effect of the man in the house rule is to create for children an atmosphere of investigation and surveillance. And thus, the welfare system in its operation turns out to be a system to make life harder for children.
The welfare system helps the disintegration of the American family. It offers money to families if the fathers will leave them and stay away, in that sense undoing the very stability of the family and taking away one of the two parents that children, of course, need. And what I have seen, I'm afraid to say, all over the country is that the legal system works against the best kind of home for these children.
Listen, that's how they destroyed the black family. That's why most black families don't have a father in the house, because you see, way back then, they're giving out welfare. They promoting that the man of the house do not be there to encourage them to not have the man of the house there so they can receive more benefits from the welfare and everything. And that destroyed the black family. And we still affected by it today. That's crazy how they put those systems into place for us. And it's still, you know what I'm saying, affecting us to this day. Man, what y'all think about that? That's like, oh, that shit cruel, man. Like, all that shit, they just be setting us up for failure, man. It's crazy. Make sure y'all like this video. Let's keep it going.
The government are denying the things that they're doing because they know right now you're not in a panic. You're not in a panic about your dollar, because right now, if you thought about it, you would do something about it. But we don't, in America, for some reason, like to think things through in advance. We like to wait until the very last minute. Well, at the very last minute, and I'm telling you, it's coming. The very last minute, what happens? All of a sudden, there's a crisis of your dollar, and you're like, well, I don't know. I mean, I guess. I mean, I'll take that. Yes. That's why everything is a crisis right now. That's why they are pushing global warming the way they are. They need you to freak out because it shuts your frontal cortex down. You're no longer thinking.
Right.
This world cannot be serious. Now, like 2 days ago, the Cash App founder Bob Lee was just found dead in San Francisco. And now a day later, they said the Federal Reserve is now coming out with their own Cash App called FedNow. This is a movement towards getting rid of physical money and having digital currency. And it's crazy how I just made a video about how the US is now getting rid of cash. They want us to have a cashless society, so every single one of our payments are tracked. This FedNow shit is replacing PayPal, Venmo, Cash App, everything. The future of this world is going to rely on one digital currency. How funny funny is it that this was announced the day after the Cash App founder was found dead? They put this shit literally right in our faces. And the reason why is because of distractions, and I just made a video on it. Do y'all remember when everybody was catching on about what was going on with Balenciaga? And then everybody forgot about it because the media constantly pushes new stories out there? That's exactly what's going to happen with this. Everybody's catching on, but then going to forget about it in a couple days because they're going to keep feeding y'all distractions. We never stand up. We never do nothing about it. All we do is just comment and say, oh, that was the government, and then we go about our day. This shit has to come to an end. I love y'all.
Man, now that's crazy right there. The Cash App founder found dead one day before the government launches Fed Now, which is the same type of little cash system money app like Cash App. The day after, and he gets stabbed in San Francisco. There's cameras all around, everything. Like, and it didn't get like, there's no suspects, it's nothing. It's like they just swept it on the rug. We don't hear nothing about it. Like, do y'all think that's a coincidence, or do y'all think that was one of them things, one of them plays? Y'all let me know, man.
And schooled in the United States of America, and you have gone to school for 13 years, K through 12, and you aren't a racist, you weren't listening. Now, people really resent it when I say that, but wait a minute, folks.
Right.
Who do we say invented everything, discovered everything, did all the writing, did all the reading? People. Eventually, maybe you'll actually say when the teacher says, Christopher Columbus discovered America and he met those Indians here. There were no Indians here when Christopher Columbus got here. There were people from Africa who had been here for over 10,000 years before Christopher Columbus was born.
He said
It's time for us to teach our children the truth. And it's time for us to say, okay, we're going to talk about Black Lives Matter. People, everybody trace your DNA back as far as you can trace it. And you're going to find out that every one of you has in their DNA some DNA from a country in Africa.
Right.
That's a fact.
The Dark Side of Christopher Columbus, a forgotten story. In 1492, Christopher Columbus set sail to find a new route to the riches of the East. But when he arrived, he encountered thriving indigenous civilizations that had been here for centuries. Columbus claimed the land for Spain, imposed his beliefs on the natives, and disregarded their way of life. His expeditions paved the way for the brutal transatlantic slave trade, bringing enslaved Africans to the Americas. The indigenous people suffered under European rule, while Africans endured slavery and harsh conditions. As we remember history, let's not forget the forgotten story of the dark side of Christopher Columbus.
And that genetic crossbreeding now continues to this day. We fly to any corner of the world and mate, okay? And the mating already began immediately. Yes, there were diseases that Columbus brought to North America, much written about that. Less written is that he brought syphilis back to Europe. First cases of syphilis of 1492.
Whoa.
Damn, Christopher
And then
Columbus
They got
got
syphilis
fucking,
from
huh?
the Native Americans?
Yes.
What, did they have no problem with it?
Well, I don't know the details of how the physiology of the natives dealt with
We don't
that,
know if
or
that's
whether
true,
it
man.
mutated.
We don't know if he brought
I
that.
don't, and there may people who know that. I'm not among them.
That's fascinating.
But just look at the graph of syphilis, reported syphilis cases in Europe. It all began in 1492 when he came back.
Whoa.
So what I'm saying is, this was a hugely significant event, the rejoining of the branches of the human species.
Well, yeah, no, I would imagine that makes sense. That is the most important event then.
And by the way, Native Americans, you know, this famous, infamous problem with metabolizing alcohol, okay, with Native Americans. You know who else has that problem? The Chinese.
They do?
Yes.
Really?
Yes. Yes.
So it's an Asian issue.
Well, so who stayed in... So you look at who populated North and South America after before the land bridge. It's whoever was right at the edge of Asia.
Right.
Then the land bridges. So Asians and North American and the natives of North and South America have more in common with each other because of this than most other pairs of groups you might grab around the world. But my point is, obviously, there's a lot to blame Columbus for, but he just happened to be the guy who did it first. Europe was coming to the New World no matter what.
For 5, the U.S. government experimented on black men. For 4,
we can't put that on Christopher Columbus, though. We don't know if he was the first one to bring that, man. That syphilis, man. I don't know, man. how do they know? Like, how do we know? Like, you don't know. So I don't know what y'all think. Comment below, man.
For 4 decades, the CDC and the United States Public Health Service conducted the Tuskegee Study, enlisting 600 impoverished black men in Alabama in 1932.
Free, huh? You say free?
Yeah. Doctrine is fine and free as any you can get anywhere.
The men, mostly sharecroppers, were deceived about its real purpose, to study syphilis. 2/3 of the men had latent syphilis, but rather than informing them or treating them with penicillin, researchers monitored them and gave them fake treatments for quote-unquote bad blood.
That is bad blood. That's what we're checking to see if y'all got so we can get rid of it.
Over 100 died of syphilis-related medical problems. 40 of their wives contracted the disease, and 19 children were born with it. A whistleblower revealed the true nature of the study, which was shut down in 1972. President Clinton offered an apology from the U.S. government in 1997.
On behalf of the American people, what the United States government did was shameful, and I am sorry.
They were told they'd get treated for their bad blood. Instead, hundreds of poor black men became participants unknowingly in a shocking and truly shameful chapter of American medical history. In 1932, the United States Public Health Service launched an unethical research project to examine the effects of untreated syphilis.
We've been done wrong so long.
The project was called the Tuskegee Study because it recruited 600 black men living in Tuskegee, Alabama. Researchers told the men that they were being treated for bad blood, a term used locally to describe anything from fatigue to anemia. They promised the men free medical treatment if they participated. While 2/3 of the men in the study were confirmed to have syphilis, not one received proper treatment for the disease they had contracted.
So this was a study in which there was no consent on the part of those who were being studied, also deception on the part of the U.S. government.
When penicillin became the recommended treatment for syphilis in the 1940s, Tuskegee researchers scandalously withheld the drug from the men in the study so that they could continue to chart the course of the disease when untreated. Many patients experienced damage to their vital organs and nervous systems, and for some, the lack of treatment led to death.
An experiment. They did an experiment on them, and instead of treating them, they wanted to see what would happen by not treating them. So they let them die, man. It's crazy, man. Shit, I keep finding out about our history, man. The government, man, they did us wrong so much. You see Bill Clinton apologize, but they need to apologize for a lot more shit because this is ridiculous.
The great shame of the study is that the men thought that they were being treated. Treatment was withheld from them, even after it was very clear what kind of medical treatment would cure them of syphilis.
And then they go home, sent them home to fuck their wives and everything, and let them pass it on to them. And who was this crew to be doing all this bullshit back in the day, man? Blowing up the cities and doing experiments on our people and everything. Like, how the fuck can you be so cruel?
1972, an Associated Press article exposed the Tuskegee Study after one of the participants brought the story to a civil rights attorney. Only then, after 40 years, was the study brought to an end. The case was settled out of court for $10 million.
This long history of medical experimentation on African Americans creates a sense of distrust. A distrust of doctors and physicians, a distrust of medical care.
In 1997, President Bill Clinton formally apologized to the victims of the study. The president's apology was a welcome first step, but we still have a long way to go before the legacy of mistrust of science within the Black community is fully overcome.
By Bill Clinton apologizing, that just lets you know that it was all official, that they know what's up. They had to apologize because they know what they did and everything, and they did more. But man, that's crazy, man. Like all this stuff I'm learning. I appreciate everybody that's tapping in on this journey with me and learning with me. It's a lot. It's a whole lot. It's just, man, it's crazy, man, learning this history and learning how we were done so wrong. I mean, man, y'all comment, let me know what you think. Make sure y'all like the video. That was very interesting. I'll be back with another one. We definitely gonna do some more. I appreciate everybody, man. Make sure you hit that like button, man. It's your boy Thao, FamOverTV. See y'all in a minute. Peace.
Fam over.